Today in Grow a Garden, we need to talk about the pet value list because things are shifting and you might want to pay attention to this. If this sounds interesting to you, go ahead and hit subscribe, become part of the first 300 KOGs on the channel, and let's get into the video. So my preface, my introduction here. There are pets on this list, pets that are very, very popular, that are taking hits, huge hits, ever since shekel trading has been re-enabled. And when I get to those pets and I explain what's going on, you're going to understand. However, if you simply skip this video and go to the end and look at the tier list, you're going to be shocked by what you see. There are some big shifts and we're going to talk about them. Now remember, how I do this list is very simple. This list is the online real world value for these pets. That way, when you're trading, you know you're trading value for value. This is not about their functionality. This is not about their desirability alone. This is supply versus demand, using online real-world values as a basis. If you want to trade to acquire a lobster because you need its effect, go nuts, do what you need to do what you want to do. It is a game after all. But if you're trading to try and move up the value list, to try and acquire more and more valuable pets, then this list is for you. And as such, you're not going to like what you're about to hear, but let's get into that, starting with probably one of my favorite pets of all time, the T-Rex. The T-Rex, according to my numbers, is still in the C tier. It is still a top 10 or 15 pet or so, but it has taken an 11 to 12% hit since the last time I made this list. Can you guess why? You're going to hear this with a few pets, and you're not going to like to hear it. The dino has taken a 12% hit because people are once again able to take their unlimited shekels because of the raccoon and use those unlimited shekels to buy up all the other little dinosaurs. We're talking like the Triceratops. We're talking like any dinosaur from that egg. Sell them with seals on the field. Get a bunch of eggs back and then hatch more T-Rexes. Over and over and over, endlessly for forever. And we have the current state of the shekels economy to thank for this. Because of raccoons making infinite shekels, they're just getting infinite eggs endlessly for forever, so long as we have dinos to hatch and to sell and to get more eggs back with. As such, the Tyrannosaurus Rex has dropped in value. And you're going to see this commonly along every other pet here. Remember when pets were going up? Because the supply was finally stopping? Not happening anymore. And on top of that, the player base is dwindling. So demand is also kind of dwindling. So an increase of supply and a decrease of demand, and here we are watching things go down like the T-Rex. Moving on to age 75 pets, they still don't have much trading value. If you do find somebody in a public server that needs them, have some in your back pocket. That way you can offer them and get some pretty cool stuff back for it, because people do want to unlock all their egg slots, all their pet slots, etc. So age 75 pet does have some value, but only in those specific cases. If you go to an experienced trader offering age 75 pets, they don't need them. Same with the red fox. It is right down here at the bottom of E tier in terms of trade value. In public servers, you can find things differently, but in terms of actively in trades, they don't have much value. So never be afraid of throwing them in as ads in a trade. And the chicken jockey is still down here with the red fox in terms of value. I cannot really tell you previously in previous videos with all these low pets. I used to say you would need this many for a dragonfly or this many for a dragonfly. I no longer feel comfortable telling you that because of what I described with the T-Rex is also going to apply to the dragonfly. And as such, these pets in that C tier are dropping drastically. So I no longer feel comfortable telling you a limited pet that has a finite number like the chicken jockey is worth this many to a dragonfly, because the dragonfly supply is increasing. So that's not a good piece of information to give you, because that information will be out of date within 24 hours time. So I'm not helping you in that regard. The cockatrice is literally the lowest pet on this list. Nobody wants it. No, but it sucks. It's sad. I do not like seeing divine pets in eggs this low, but for the same reason that T-Rexes are dropping, people are able to hatch the cockatrice over and over and over and stretch out those hatchings with seals and with koi. So there's just a massive supply of cockatrice, and there's just not enough demand for it right now. Common huges, I'll say this before, and I'll say it again, are B tier things, so long as you can find somebody interested in your common huge. As anybody who has held on to huges for any length of time and tried to trade them will tell you, huges are hard to trade. It is a niche, small market. And if it doesn't have a useful effect, where in the hugeness makes the effect even better, not much value. And that's what I mean by a common huge. Nobody really cares about a common lab. Nobody really cares about a common bunny. They are rare and therefore have some value online, but in terms of their demand, the demand is low. Your regular, average, everyday French fry ferret is down here in the middle of E tier. If it is a heavier French fry ferret, if it is a heavy and rainbow French fry ferret, it will have some pretty good trade value. But if it's just a random French fry ferret, they're toss-ins, they're ads. The griffin is down here in this, towards the bottom of E tier. Again, it doesn't have much value. We can hatch it, and therefore we can farm multiples of them. And if they ever do gain value, then people will do what they're doing with the T-Rex. That's the unfortunate part of egg-hatched divines. The moment they gain any value, well, we'll just buy up all the non-divines in that egg, sell those non-divines and those eggs with seals on the field, get eggs back, and continue to hatch them to get more griffins. It's really unfortunate. It's almost like the egg pets are losing value, and the pets you don't get in eggs are maintaining their value. You're going to notice that trend throughout this video. Welcome to 4 Horsemen number 1. I have 4 pets in this list that should not be valued where they are, but because of their super low demand and super low supply, they're just locked in place until people undercut. The gnome hasn't moved still to this day. The gnome is still listed as a low B tier pet in terms of online value, but no one's acquiring them. No one. I don't see them moving. So I have a pet peeve. Pet peeve number 1 for Crow. Do not go into Discord servers, because I search my name. I search people talking about me to answer questions. Do not go into public servers and say, I have gnomes and I value them up here because of KroBlox. And you're trying to look to offload gnomes on people at this value. Don't do that. That's scummy. Don't use my name for your desire to offload these gnomes at this value. That's just, you're hurting me, okay? I make this list to help people so that if people are trying to acquire their pets, they know what their pet is worth. I don't make this list to help people to offload these hard to move pets at these values in my name. It's almost like a crusade in my name. That feels weird and kind of gross. Don't do that. Having said that, the gnome is listed there. Again, it's listed there. I don't value it there. It's one of the 4 horsemen, like I said, one of the 4 pets I have on this list that are valued high, but in terms of their desirability, they're down here. Like the gnome is an E tier pet in desirability. Nobody wants it. Nobody needs it. The only thing putting it up here is its rarity. But on all honesty, it's an E tier pet. I almost should take it off the list. But the problem is, in the rare chance that somebody has a gnome and someone's trying to acquire it off them and trying to rip them off, I want to protect that person. But people are crusading in my name, trying to get untold value. It's a complicated thing. The junk bot is down here in the E tier once more. It's super common. Nobody really needs them. Nobody really wants them. However, it's not found in an egg. Maybe it has value in the future. And that goes to show with all these pets. The peach wasp, the lemon lion, the bean guy, and there was one more. Where'd it go? The apple gazelle. They're all E-tier pets. They're all ads. They're all throw-ins in trades. Yet they're not found in eggs. Therefore, their limited supply is limited. So that's kind of cool. I wonder if Jandal should consider removing the whole seal koi economy. I wonder if he should consider that. Because without seals and koi, once an event is done, the event is done. And once the eggs are done, the eggs are done. I honestly wonder if he should consider removing the seals and koi's abilities. Something to think about. Ascended pets, we talk about this every single time I make these videos. Ascended pets are top of B tier things if you can find the right buyer. They're hard to trade. They're as equally hard to trade for value as a common huge. If I had a random ascended pet come out of the mutation machine, I would easily trade it for anything in the C tier. I would trade it for anything of value that will allow me to continue to trade up. So when I pull an ascended pet out of the machine and I luck out, I would get whatever I could for it. If I'm trying to trade up the tier list, I wouldn't use the ascended pet as a stepping stone up the tier list, but they do have value. The dragonfly, we're gonna take our glasses off for this one. Okay, here we go. The dragonfly is now a D tier pet. I'm not kidding. And this is shocking. This is why I was so serious in the beginning of this video. The dragonfly is found in the bug egg. Bug egg? Yeah, the bug egg. And as such, people are buying up with shekels any pet found in the bug egg. At any amount of shekels. They'll offer quintillions of shekels. They'll offer sextillions of shekels. They don't care because their raccoons just keep farming more and more and more forever. And because they do that, they buy up every other pet found in the bug egg, and they continue to hatch bug eggs looking for dragonflies because dragonflies have value. And now that we can trade shekels once more, this has continued, and the dragonfly has taken a massive 20% hit. It is now down in the D tier. The difference between the dragonfly and the T-Rex is so significant now that I can't keep it in the C tier. The dragonfly has dropped significantly. It is equal, and I'm going to jump ahead for you guys. No, I'll wait. It's in the top of D tier now. It's really unfortunate, but this is what happens when you can trade shekels and trade shekels for pets. And this is what happens if you continue to keep seals and koi. I have 8 heavy seals. I have them. They give me back eggs. I have my 4 koi. I have my brontosauruses. I'm one of these types of people doing this. What I'm personally not doing is buying up pets for shekels. I don't have an infinite crazy shekel farm. I kind of don't want one. It ruins things. But here we are. This is the economy. This is the current state of things, and it's really unfortunate. But anything found in eggs, any rare pet found in eggs that is a 1% hatch or even a 0.5% hatch can be farmed like this, and is going to continue to decrease for forever, so long as we can trade shekels for pets, so long as we don't fix the shekel situation. Now, there are a couple of pets that are exempt from this, and we'll get to those. That's because they're harder to acquire in those eggs. And you know who those are, and we'll get to those in a second. Bald eagles continue to have value. They cannot be found in eggs. They were found in a shop at one point. There is a limited supply of them, and they're the best method for hatching eggs right now, so they do have trade value. The brontosaurus has trade value as well because it allows you to get heavier pets, and some people are doing 3 or 4 brontosaurus and 3 or 4 koi, or 4 or 5 koi, sorry, when they're hatching their eggs. Some people are not. If you're looking for heavier huges, you want brontos. If you're just looking to stretch out your eggs as much as possible, you want as many koi as you can get your hands on. The butterfly, oddly enough, maybe because it's found in the anti-bee egg, but that's not an excuse, and we'll talk about that future. The butterfly hasn't dropped as far as the other ones. It is still a B tier pet. It hasn't dropped as much. I think this is because of demand, right? I think the demand is kind of keeping pace even with the increased supply because people want rainbow on their fruits for obvious reasons. So as such, the butterfly is still doing okay, even though people are, again, doing the seal thing with anti-bee eggs. If you hear me stumble over my words, it's because I'm trying not to like cough and die right now. I'm fighting a cold. So the butterfly is not suffering nearly as much as the T-Rex or the dragonfly or other things so far in this list. Seals have value. Seals only have value if they're over a specific weight. You can go ahead and use a Grow Garden calculator to figure out what weight you need for a seal to reach 8% hatch ability at level 100. You can find that weight information. Raijus are the bottom of D tier. They're not found in eggs. They were a shop item. They're a limited supply. And as such, their value isn't moving, which is shocking, but it is what it is. Fennec foxes are worth around an ascended pet right now. And they're worth, hold on, where is it? Are they worth a dragonfly difference still? Yeah, they're still worth a dragonfly difference between the fennec fox and the butterfly. That's about where it is. There's a dragonfly difference. It's actually more than a dragonfly difference, but we're not going to talk about that. Hamsters have gone down a little bit. People thought they'd be useful, myself included, they'd be useful for this event, but they've gone down a little bit as the developers have decreased the cost of things in the event. The need for hamsters has decreased, but people are still high on the Pachycephalosaurus, and we'll get to there in a bit, and that's a fun conversation when we get there. Dillos are still in the top of E tier. It's partly because of their ability and partly because you can sell them for seals to get back eggs. So they still have some value. The pack bee is my third of my 4 horsemen. The hamster, the pack bee, and the gnomes probably don't belong in these tiers from a desirability standpoint. Nobody's trying to acquire gnomes. Nobody's trying to acquire hamsters. Nobody's trying to acquire pack bees. And nobody's trying to acquire pandas. I'll put them up there too. These 4 are my 4 horsemen. Nobody cares about them, but they're there because of value listed online, so I report it to you. And if you use my trait list to try and offload those pets, you can go ahead and try and offload those pets at those values. Just don't say Crow says so, therefore you must trade me. No, don't do that. That's rude. Hot dog. Don't get it. He's in D tier. That's where he's listed online. I don't know about demand. I'm not sure, but that's where it is. The Spinosaurus did not get hit as hard as the T-Rex and the Dragonfly. I think it's because the Spinosaurus does a better job than the T-Rex. Because most people understand that they want to put all the mutations on one plant. And as such, the T-Rex is fantastic for that. It's its job. And because the T-Rex was a 2-week pet and the Spino was a 1-week pet, so I think there's just less supply of the Spino versus the T-Rex. But ultimately, it has not taken as big of a hit as the T-Rex and the Dragonfly have especially. Blood owls have a limited supply and they're holding up the D tier. The lobster hasn't dropped. Oddly enough, I don't think people are really farming after the lobster as much right now, and it does have some useful effects. It's holding up its value, holding up its demand. Cooked owl is still cooked to this day. Nobody wants a cooked owl. The queen bee is right here in terms of online value, and this is just a supply versus demand thing. Again, I talked about the pack bee. There's no demand for it, and it hasn't dropped because nobody's undercut each other. In terms of tradability, the pack bee's down here. But in terms of online listed value, it's right there. Just don't trust it. The Mimic took a slap in the face. It is barely holding on here at C tier. The Mimic and the T-Rex are equal value. The Dragonfly has dropped fairly significantly beneath that value, but the Mimic has taken another 10 or 11% hit because people are farming the Paradise Egg and seal farming it and koi farming it and just increasing the amount of Mimics in circulation. And that will, I think it's also because people are trying to get huge and Titanic Mimics as well, which is why more and more regular Mimics are hitting the field. And until they stop the seal and koi method, more and more Mimics and more T-Rexes and Dragonflies will hit the field continuously. And it's just kind of unfortunate. The Blood Hedgehog is a very solid D tier pet, limited supply. Supply will never increase. It has a useful effect. It is what it is. The Blood Kiwi is also a D tier pet. It's just significantly weaker than the Bald Eagle. They both have limited supplies. The Bald Eagle, I think, has more supply because it was released recently in that shop and we all bought it up. However, they're both locked in their supplies. The Golden Goose is practically useless and is common as dirt and farmed like crazy, and people are still hatching those eggs looking for huges and stuff. Yeah, it has no value. The Disco Bee took a thick hit. Thick hit. It is now almost 2 Disco Bees to a raccoon. Not quite. But it's getting close. The hit was so big, it's getting in the vicinity. It's not there yet, but it's almost there. And it's really unfortunate because it's found in the anti-bee egg. And because of the resurgence of the desirability of Pachycephalosauruses because of the current event, people are remembering, oh yeah, you can still craft anti-bee eggs. And I picked up these Pachycephalosaurus and they double the bee egg crafts. Yeah, it's really awkward. So people are using seals and stuff on top to get like regular bee eggs, right? And then they're using those regular bee eggs in crafting for the anti-bee egg and they're doubling it up with a Pachycephalosaurus. So you've got a double whammy on the anti-bee eggs. You've got the double whammy of the double craft on the Pachycephalosaurus and the double whammy of the seal method and the koi method, especially the seal method, to buy up all the little things found in the anti-bee egg, like the wasps. People are buying up the wasps with Sheckels and then selling them with seals to get anti-bee eggs back. So the Disco Bee is getting a double whammy of increased supply in the game. Now, people are trying to do that with the raccoon, right? They're trying. They're buying up, hedgehogs and regular frogs and echo frogs to sell them into the shop with seals to get more of the night eggs back. But the raccoon's a 0.1% chance in a night egg. It's 1 in every 1,000 night eggs for a raccoon. So the supply is not increasing that quickly because of that. And the demand is just keeping pace. People want raccoons, especially if you hatch. If you hatch a raccoon, there's no chance that thing has a dupe. That's interesting. Raccoons right now, in terms of butterflies, are almost 4-1. That's how far the butterfly's fallen. It's almost 4-1, not quite. If you can do 3-1, that's an underpay. If you can do 4 butterfly to a raccoon to 1, that's an overpay. And don't even get me started how many dragonflies to a raccoon. It's more than 10. It's more than 12. It's crazy. The dragonfly got slapped. Still no news though on how they're going to help us with the whole duped raccoon problem. I'm currently sitting on 6 raccoons locked in my inventory because they're duped. It's unfortunate, but it's not stopped its value. Its value is rock solid. We're going to jump ahead. Same thing with the kitsune. The kitsune was a 0.08% chance to hatch, even rarer than the raccoon. So even if people are buying up every single Zen pet they can think of, whether it's the Tanjizuru or the Kappa or the Shiba Inu, and they're using the seals and they're getting back eggs, Zen eggs, to try and hatch kitsune, because it's a 0.08, they're not able to hatch them quickly at all. And the demand for them is still high. So the demand for this thing actually has gone up slightly. It's still holding steady. Kitsune and raccoons are holding rock solid. Meta huges. We all know what meta huges are. If you don't, I will list off for you some of the meta huges. You've got the Titanic peacock. You've got the huge or Titanic capybara. You've got the Titanic mimic octopus. When it comes to any of your huges, depending on how big it is, all you have to do is go onto Google and look up real world values for your huge. And then you can compare the real world value of your huge to the real world value of a raccoon, of a kitsune, of a dragonfly, of a butterfly to get a feel for where it roughly is. But then you have to remember demand. And it's just tough. If you have huges and you want to know what they're worth, don't ask me. Go online and do your best to figure it out yourself, because you do have something valuable. And the last thing you want to do is trust a random guy on the internet. Do your own research. Teach yourself its value. It's the best thing you can do. The corrupted kitsune is down here in the E tier. It doesn't have much trade value. Public servers, it will. Amongst experienced traders, they don't want it. They don't care. Now we're going to talk about some of the newer pets in the game. The Phoenix has dropped, as we all predicted. The last video I made on this was Sunday morning, and the Phoenix was a butterfly tier at the time. Now it is down in the dragonfly tier. It's so weird to say. It is currently really, really close, but worth less than a dragonfly, but they're really close. They're really, really close online. Will it stay there? I don't know. But accepting a dragonfly for your Phoenix, I would do it. The dragonfly is also dropping because of seals and kois and bug eggs and what we talked about. But the Phoenix is also dropping because it's the current pet currently being farmed through the chests. However, unlike the dragonfly, at the end of this event, all the chests will be used up and there will be a finite amount of Phoenixes. Will that Phoenix eventually drop down to here because of a lack of demand? Maybe. But as of right now, that's where it is. We'll see where things go. I hate this information. I hate what I'm about to tell you. The Pachycephalosaurus is worth like 30% to 40% more than the T-Rex online. Real world value. Why? If you want Pachycephalosaurus, you need 8 of them. Not only do you need 8 of them, you need 8 pretty heavy ones to get to that 100% double craft number. Okay. As such, the demand for them is high because people want 8 of them. And before people were demanding them or in demand of them or needing them or wanting them, they were basically a bulk pet. They were down here. And as such, people were allowing them to be sold. They were selling them to the people looking to buy them for shekels to literally feed them to seals to turn back into eggs, right? Before there was a demand for them, everyone was buying them up with shekels, selling them to the shop with seals on the field to turn them back into eggs to try and acquire the Spinosaurus. So the supply of these things has dwindled, being sold for seal food. And now the demand has skyrocketed because you can use them to double up your anti-bee egg crafts. You can use them to double up your enchanted chest crafts. You can use them to double up pretty much any craft. And as such, they have demand now. And even after this event is over, because of people double crafting anti-bee eggs, they may continue to have demand in the future, and their supply is really, really low. So it's right there. It makes sense. I don't like it. I hate the fact that it's worth more than the T-Rex, but it is. And it's weird because people were buying them up to try and acquire the Spino, and now people want to keep them for crafting. It's a super strange situation, but it is what it is. Now, these next 3 pets, at first I was going to warn you about their values. I mean, I warned you about their values on Sunday's video, right? Because if you remember Sunday's video, I had them up here, close to, if not more than the raccoon, because of a really, 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 really low supply and being really difficult to acquire because it used to cost 2,000 or 3,000 fairies to unlock those spots in the shops. And then you had to reset them over and over and over to hopefully acquire them. And then it was like 40 or 50 or 60 or 70,000 fairy points to acquire them. So back then, they were uber rare. So what's happened now is the fairy requirement to unlock those slots in the shops has decreased. So more people have unlocked them in the shops. And the cost for them has decreased. I think I spent 25,000 fairy points to acquire a luminous sprite, for example. They're still rare to pull up in the shops. I refreshed the shop multiple times until I found one of them in stock. So the supply is higher, but still low. And not only is the supply low, they're not found in eggs. So they'll never be hatched again beyond this event. The event ends in a handful of days, and they're going to have a super limited supply that is locked in place because they were found in shops and not found in eggs. We just discussed all throughout this video the decreasing of value of the dragonfly, the T-Rex, the mimic, because of seals and kois, because they're continuing to be farmed and hatched, increased in supply, even to this day. So here's what's happening to these 3 rare, hard to acquire shop pets. The supply is low, and as such, here are their values. The Wisp, looking at multiple websites, is a top of B tier pet in terms of value. The Luminous Wisp, Luminous Sprite, is a top of A tier pet, worth more than a Disco Bee right now, because Disco Bee got slapped because of the increase of supply, because of the crafting with the Pachycephalosaurus, and because of the eggs of the seals. And the Drake is also right here above a Disco Bee. So what's happening here? First thing, I don't know if the demand is here, right? I don't know if the demand for these pets is here, but the supply is super low. And when this event rotates, the supply is locked. They're shops. They're not eggs. Where do I see these going? I see these existing on this list for some time because they're rare, because they have some interesting effects. The Wisp is basically a blood owl. It's equal to a blood owl. I think I did the math. A 1.3 kilogram Wisp will apply the same amount of XP per second as a 2 kilogram plus blood owl. They were neck and neck. So it has some use. The Drake has some use with cooking. The Wisp, I don't know, it's just rare. All 3 of these are rare. Right this second, they're listed here, multiple websites. Moving forward, I see them dropping, but I don't see them dropping that much because there's just not a supply of these things. They're rare. However, how desirable are they? Will they be like a panda? Rare, but not much demand. I don't know, but this is where they are today. So if you've skipped the video and you've come to the end here, I want you to think about a few things. Yes, the Dragonfly is in the D tier. Why? Rewind the video, find me talking about the Dragonfly. I go into depth. The T-Rex and the Mimic have taken like 10 to 20% hits in value. Why? Go listen. The Disco Bee is almost 2 Disco Bees to a raccoon. Why? Rewind the video and find out. Things are happening. The Seal and the Koi, and because you can trade Sheckels again, are decreasing the values of specific egg hatchable rare pets. It's changing the economy. It's changing the entire structure of this game. Is it wiser to look for pets that are found in shops and therefore limited supply and never able to have an increased supply later? I don't know, but this is where we are. It's really weird. This is my current trading tier list. What do you think? What do you think about the future of egg hatchable divines like the T-Rex, the Mimic, and the Dragonfly? What do you think? What do you think about the future of very difficult to egg hatch guys like the 0.1% raccoon or the 0.08% hatchable red kitsune? What do you think about those? And what do you think about the pets that are not found in eggs like these 3 and their futures? Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it brought you some value. If it did, go ahead and hit subscribe, guys. And as always, thank you very much for watching.